In the heart of Oromó village, where the sun warmed the red earth and ancient secrets slept beneath the whispering trees, the Adegbile family prepared for a day they had long awaited. Their last-born, Lekan, was returning home from the city. To them, Lekan was more than a son, he was hope, pride, and the gentle voice that always soothed the storms in their home. Mama Adegbile waited anxiously at the compound gate, her wrapper fluttering softly in the evening breeze. Baba Adegbile stood firm, his staff planted beside him like a warning to the world. Colonel, the older brother, leaned against the wall with folded arms, watching with an expression that was neither joy nor anger, just curiosity. When Lekan finally walked through the dusty village path, his backpack slung over one shoulder and a calm smile on his face, the compound brightened. Mama rushed to him, her embrace tight and emotional. Baba nodded with stiff pride, offering only a few words of welcome. Colonel simply murmured, "Welcome back," but his eyes remained sharp, observing every detail. What no one noticed was the small handmade bracelet on Lekan's wrist, a quiet reminder of the secret he carried. That night, as the moonlight washed over the compound, Lekan sat alone outside, staring at the sky. Mama joined him, lowering herself onto the wooden stool beside him. She studied his face for a long moment before speaking softly. "Your heart is loud tonight, my son. Who has captured it?" Lekan hesitated, then sighed deeply. "Her name is Aisha." Mama froze, the name hovering in the air like a forbidden song. Aisha Dan Musa, the kind of name that could make an entire household tremble. Mama whispered, "Be careful, Lekan." But the boy who once obeyed without question simply stared back at the moon, lost in thoughts he could no longer hide. The next morning, the peace of the compound shattered. Colonel, who had woken earlier than usual, overheard Lekan speaking softly on the phone behind the house. Curiosity led him closer, suspicion fired his temper, and within minutes he burst into the sitting room. "Baba. Mama. Do you know who your precious last-born is speaking with?" Baba Adegbile set down his staff slowly. "Who?" Colonel's voice rose like thunder. "A Dan Musa girl." The word Dan Musa struck the room like lightning. Memories surged, dark stories, old wounds, and a conflict so deep it had carved a permanent scar between the clans. 22 years ago, blood had been spilled between the Adegbile and Dan Musa families. It was a story no one forgot, and no one forgave. Later that day, Lekan made the boldest decision of his life. He brought Aisha to the Adegbile compound. She walked in gently, her green flowing dress swaying with each step, her braided hair decorated with tribal beads that glimmered in the sun. She knelt respectfully. Mama's breath caught in her throat, surprised by the girl's beauty and calm presence. But Baba Adegbile stepped forward like a gathering storm, gripping his staff tightly. "You dare bring a Dan Musa into my home?" he roared. Lekan tried to speak, but Aisha quietly squeezed his hand. Her touch steadied him, but it did nothing to calm the fury burning in Baba's eyes. Mama whispered, trembling, "This will end badly." The argument shook the entire household. Baba forbade the relationship. Colonel supported him, adding fuel to the fire. But Lekan stood firm for the first time in his life. "I will not leave her," he said. Baba threatened to disown him. And with a heavy heart, Lekan walked out of the compound with Aisha by his side. Days passed, and the village whispered. But something even more dangerous stirred. That evening, by the riverbank, Aisha revealed the truth Lekan had never imagined. Her clan had not started the ancient conflict, the story repeated for decades was a lie. It was the Adegbile ancestors who had taken something sacred, a healing scroll belonging to the Dan Musa lineage. Aisha lifted her wrist and revealed a glowing spiritual mark, shaped like an ancient prophecy symbol. She explained that she was destined to unite the clans and restore the stolen legacy. Lekan felt the ground shift beneath his feet. Love had brought him here, but the truth demanded something far greater. That same night, the Adegbile house became restless. Clay pots cracked without reason. Goats wailed into the darkness. The ancestral shrine shook as if touched by unseen hands. Mama clutched her chest and whispered, "The ancestors are angry, not at the girl, but at us." Determined to end the chaos, Lekan returned to the family compound with Aisha, this time, not in fear but in truth. Aisha knelt once again, but her voice was firm as she revealed the stolen scroll and the forgotten history. Baba Adegbile's anger drained slowly from his face, replaced by something heavier, guilt. Connor stared in confusion, struggling to understand. Mama covered her face and sobbed, realizing the ancestors had called for reconciliation long ago, but pride had silenced their hearts. Aisha asked for permission to perform a cleansing ritual. The family agreed. At the shrine, she lit herbs in a calabash bowl. Blue smoke rose gently, swirling through the air like the breath of the ancestors themselves. The wind calmed, the pot stopped breaking, and an overwhelming peace settled over the compound. Baba exhaled deeply, the weight of years finally lifted. If love is the bridge between our clans, he said quietly, then let this be the first step. He placed his blessing upon Lekan and Aisha. Connor stepped forward and embraced his brother, ashamed of how far anger had carried him. Days later, music filled Oromó village. Drums echoed through the air as two clans gathered for the first time in decades. Lanterns glowed, dancers moved in colorful Osoebi attire, and smiles replaced the fear that once divided them. Lekan stood in white agbada. Aisha shone in gold lace with beads cascading down her neck. The celebration marked the beginning of a new story, one born from courage, truth, and forbidden love. And so, the last born of the Adegbile family rewrote the destiny of two clans. For when love chooses truth, no history, no tradition, and no fear can stand in its way. This is a story by Tales by Fire, the home of African folktales, where wisdom hides in stories, and every tale carries the heartbeat of a people. If you love stories that keep the fire burning, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, so the flame of our tales never dies.